Pakistan is all set to allocate rupees 3 trillion for defense services in 2026 to 2027, even as the US State Department questions the lack of adequate parliamentary and civilian oversight of the country's military and intelligence budgets. Now, the concerns were raised in Washington's fiscal transparency report, which also highlighted gaps in Pakistan's disclosure of the government debt and delays in publishing its executive budget proposal. But what about the information that Pakistan does make public? Now, the report acknowledged that Pakistan publishes its enacted budget and year-end fiscal statements online. However, it flagged a major transparency gap when it comes to military and intelligence spendings. So what exactly is the issue? Now, according to that report, Pakistan's military and intelligence budgets are not subject to adequate parliamentary or civilian public oversight. Now, why does that matter? Defense is one of the largest areas of federal spending in Pakistan. Yet, significant portions of military expenditure are not fully visible through publicly available budget documents. So what is Washington asking Islamabad to do? Now, the US State Department has called for greater parliamentary and civilian scrutiny of military and intelligence expenditure, effectively pushing Pakistan to make its defense spending more transparent and accountable. Washington has also criticized the timing of Pakistan's budgetary disclosures. The assessment said that the government did not publish its executive budget proposal within a reasonable period, limiting the time available for lawmakers and the civil society to examine the planned spending before the budget is adopted. But Washington's concern does not stop at military spending. What about Pakistan's wider financial obligation? The US has called for greater disclosure of the government debt, including liabilities linked to major state-owned enterprises. But was the US assessment entirely negative? Not quite. Washington also found that Pakistan's supreme audit institutions meet international standards of independence. Its audit reports were also published within a reasonable time frame and contained substantive findings. Now let's talk about how much is Pakistan actually planning to spend on defense. Now, Islamabad has proposed rupees 3 trillion for defense services in 2026 to 2027. That is a 17.65% increase over the previous year's original allocation of rupees 2.55 trillion according to Dawn. But what does rupees 3 trillion mean in the context of Pakistan's overall finances? Now, the defense allocation accounts for around 2.08% of Pakistan's projected GDP of rupees 143.6 trillion. It also amounts to nearly 16% of the federal government's total outlay of rupees 18.77 trillion. And this is not the first major increase. Pakistan's defense allocation had already risen by around 20% in the previous financial year. So where is this money expected to go? The published defense budget provides some details. Let's delve into that. Another rupees 743.46 billion is projected for operating expenses. And then there is the physical assets category. Now, this covers arms, ammunitions, and military equipments, with spendings expected to rise sharply to around rupees 925.83 billion. But does the rupees 3 trillion figure capture the entire military budget? No. And that is where the distinction becomes important. Military pensions are accounted for separately. The federal government has allocated rupees 822 billion for retired military personnel under its overall pension expenditure. Major military imports and defense acquisitions can also fall outside the main published defense service allocation. So what exactly is Washington questioning? The issue is not simply whether Pakistan publishes a defense budget or not. It is how much of its wider military and intelligence spending can actually be examined by lawmakers and the public. As per reports, and to mention again, Pakistan's budget documents do not publicly disclose spending on its nuclear weapons programs. Major military imports and acquisitions are also generally not detailed within the main defense allocation. Now, that means that the rupees 3 trillion headline figure does not necessarily capture every military-related financial obligation, and this is central to the US criticism. Washington is calling for greater civilian and parliamentary visibility into the military and intelligence spendings. And at the same time, it wants Pakistan to provide fuller details on state-owned enterprise debt and give lawmakers earlier access to executive budget proposals. So why is this particularly significant for the Shehbaz Sharif government? Because defense spending is rising at a time when Pakistan continues to face fiscal pressure. The government has allocated another rupees 822 billion for military pensions, while total federal expenditure for 2026 to 2027 is projected at rupees 18.77 trillion. Now, the key question is pretty simple. Pakistan's budget puts the defense allocation at rupees 3 trillion, but how much of its wider military and intelligence spending can civilian institutions actually scrutinize? What are your thoughts on this video? Do let us know in the comment section below.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.